Don't make this big mistake as you get older. I'm Anita Wanka. I'm an exercise physiologist, internist, and geriatrician. And one of the biggest mistakes I see my patients making as they get older is becoming sedentary and not doing any activity as they get older. There can be certain reasons that an individual that is getting older is not moving as much. For example, they might have heart and lung problems that make it difficult for them to breathe, or they might have joint problems. This can make it more difficult to move as much and as quickly as they used to when they were younger, but an individual should still make the effort to try and exercise, to try and move, and try to be active as much as possible. So I'm going to give you a story to explain my thought process and why I think this is very important. So I did my fellowship in geriatrics at the University of Illinois, and it was a joint fellowship with the Jesse Brown VA, where I had the pleasure of taking care of so many veterans, and so many of these veterans were so inspiring. I remember two in particular that were 90. One, I kept on looking at the chart. I was so confused. I could not believe he was 90. He looked like he was 60. And I started to see a pattern when there were individuals that were like 90s or in their hundreds, and they were, looking very good, and maybe they had some medical problems, but they were not functioning in the same way as their peers would. So this first 90-year-old I was going to talk about, who I thought must have been 60, and I thought there must have been a mistake in the chart. He was playing basketball with the youngins every day, and I was like I could not understand, but yes, he played basketball every single day. Another one of my favorite 90-year-olds would always come to the clinic and be like, hurry up, I gotta go back to work. Even when he had other issues going on that slowed him down, he was not gonna stop working. And I could tell so many more stories about this gentleman, but for those of you who are my patients, I might tell you more stories about why he was one of my favorite patients. But no, he did not let his life or his age as he got wiser slow him down. He kept on going. I'll just tell one more story about my oldest patient, and she was not a veteran, but my oldest patient ever, again in Chicago, which is a city that is quite busy and a lot of stress. Anyways, 107, yes. And this is not just a typical 107-year-old. She was a 107-year-old who was still, before she came to the hospital, driving and living in her own granny suite. There was a few other things that happened that brought her to the hospital, but I was like, wow, this is so impressive. Like, she kept on going, kept on moving. There's some circumstances that brought her to the hospital. But in observing my patients that are wiser, one of the things that they keep doing is that they keep moving. They do not let them slow down beyond what they really have to slow down. Yeah, they'll be a little bit slower, but they still have the will and the determination to keep going, to keep moving, to keep taking care of themselves, to keep going to the gym. So as you get wiser, yes, you are going to slow down, but don't give up. And I think another important thing I'm going to say is having that determination and that will to keep going. I don't know if there have been studies that have been done on this, but for some reason I find my patients who are a little bit, feisty, a little bit stubborn, they tend to live longer, or they tend to surprise us in terms of how well they recover. So I think it's very important to have determination and the will to keep going, even if you have limitations on you, not giving up mentally and, just choosing to keep going. So in terms of exercise, I keep talking about it. I know you guys are probably like, oh, this girl just talks about exercise. Yes, it's so important. So in terms of exercise, in general, most of us should be exercising 4 to 6 days per week for 45 minutes to 60 minutes. If you can do more, that's spectacular. You don't have to overdo it, but at least 4 days a week for 1 hour. I'm also talking to myself. I've slowed down lately, but still, it's so important. I'll talk more about exercise and the benefits of exercise, but I really, really, really think as an exercise physiologist and as a physician, moving, exercise, it doesn't have to be super intense, just even walking. This is one of the best things you can do for your health, especially as you get wiser.